What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith, hanging out with Ari Shaffir. Ari, playing hurt, but it's great to have you in here, Ari.
Thanks.
It was a rough skiing accident for you, man.
It was all right. Yeah, I crushed a snowboarder hard, though. Yeah, he was pretty mad. I had to play up that I was more hurt than I was to get him off my case. Well, then I was really hurt.
Now you can make it part of your routine.
Yeah. Oh, I have. Because people look at me and they're like, they just keep pointing, like, if I don't talk about it, they're like, what's this? I'm like, oh, fine.
You're like, I'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we go all the way back first? You got a lot of cool stuff going on right now, but give me the whole comedy origin story. How did you first get into comedy?
Oh, okay.
Who were some of the big influences early on?
I used to like Kinnison. Was like my big headliner that I liked. But mostly I just watched like late night. I didn't have cable, my family, so we just
a couple channels, right?
was on like Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, wow, these guys are great. Or there was a show live from the Laugh Factory on Saturday nights, and I'd watch that. And I was like, yeah, that's it. So I didn't really have any influences as much as like I liked stand-up, you know? And then more like The Simpsons were my influence.
That's a good one, too.
Yeah. And then I graduated college, and I was like, I do not want to do what I'm supposed to do here and get a job. So I was like, let me take a chance and run away from all that and go to LA.
I mean, I think it's worked out for you, right?
Oh, it's worked out for sure. Yeah, at the time, everyone was like, ugh, what are you doing? I'm like, whatever, I'll just start late, who cares?
Well, that's kind of been the story. We were talking off camera. It's like, some people will tell you to do something a certain way. That's not really your style.
Yeah, you gotta do your own way.
Right, you're gonna figure it out, whether it's stand-up, your own special. So when you were first doing stand-up, people were doubting you. People were not necessarily coming. Give me some good early stories from that whole experience.
Well, I remember in terms of like you have to be you.
Yeah.
There were these two girls, Daisy and Daly, two funny comics at our open mic level. And Daisy was like looked like this girl next door, and Daly looked like Daria. There's more that vibe.
Yeah.
And so Daisy was like, to get men, you just have to smile more, you know, if that's your issue. And so Daly would try that, but her smile was like she's like, I'm dark. I'm a dark queen. Like, this isn't right for me. And it's like, oh yeah, no, be yourself. So be the dark, queen that you are, and then you can get plenty of dudes or whatever. But like, that's your confidence level in that circle, and not like, maybe that's not the best example.
No, but it's interesting because you're dealing with all these different factors when you're first starting out. You have to tour all over the country.
People telling you to be clean, and you're like, but that's not who I am.
Right.
And then you're like, and you try to be clean, but you're just bad at it. That's why
it's
they got
not
on
you.
Fallon. Yeah, they
Yeah.
got on Fallon. Like, why aren't you more political? He's like, that's not me. And
Right.
you're like, what are you lose ratings to your guy? You know?
And
then
so
he's like, yeah, but he's more political.
Right.
So let him do that. I
Yeah.
like to play ping pong.
Exactly. That's his thing, or that's her thing. I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
And especially in today's world, it's like everybody's trying to pigeonhole somebody. It's like, define this person in a sentence. But comedians are much more complex than that, and you need the space.
What type of and to
kinda
learn
do
how
it.
to be yourself
Yeah.
and what you're into. I like trolling people. I tear down gods. You know, if anybody's revering somebody, like that's when I'm like trying to take their legs out from under them.
So who are some people you like to take out? Because you're not afraid.
Yeah, no, I'm not afraid because I've already built this career for myself. So there's nothing to take away from me. So, but like, anytime somebody dies, a beloved celebrity dies, and everyone's like, "Oh, we'll miss you, Jim Neighbors," or like that Adam West, so sad. I'm just like, I'm shitting on them as hard as I can online, and people are like, "It's too soon, not now," and it's like, no, exactly now. Like
So
the pro
everybody's
stuff
zigging, you're zagging.
Yeah,
You're taking
exactly.
your own thing.
Yeah, otherwise it's boring.
Yeah.
You know, that's why people like give it up for the troops or I hate Trump or whatever you're into. Where it's like, can you take a stance?
Can we be original
It's
here?
difficult to get people behind you.
Yeah.
Like, take a chance to get laughs.
Definitely.
That's what I prefer anyway.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
They're all valid ways, but I
Sure.
just prefer you could have been out on that one.
Yeah. Or you're really just going to have to think about this,
Yeah.
As opposed to just the same thing all the time.
That's why I love comedy now. People are like, with all these blogs trying to tear people down, it's like, can you believe this guy said this or mocked? They never say made fun of. They go mocked something.
That's the choice word.
Well, I'm like, now you walk into a club in New York, you're gonna hear some dark shit that might get this comic their career taken away from them.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is cool.
Yeah.
It's not just knock jokes and like Catskill type comedy. This is out there. We're back in the Lenny Bruce days now.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know?
So how is today's New York scene different from when it was when you were first coming up?
Well, I started in LA, so I can't fully tell you the New York scene. But comedy, it is that thing now where a lot of people are like worried about the consequences more of even not what they're saying now, but in 8 years from now, when the video of this gets out, like who's gonna know what's acceptable now, what's not? You know? Like, I don't know, like the NAACP, the CP stands for colored people, which now sounds like, what? But like at the time, they weren't trying to be rude. They were trying to like, that's the proper term.
Yeah.
I'm
Society
saying,
evolves.
it's like, we have to hire more colored people. And people. But now it's like, how dare you say that? You're like, no, I wasn't. What?
No, at a certain time, that's the tough thing about art is that we're trying to re-legislate it 8 years later or 10 years later.
Yeah, that's
and at
why.
the time, it was a different situation.
Yeah.
So it's been a really tricky situation for
You
a lot
got
of
a
people.
year. If it's anything recorded before this year, you have no idea what the zeitgeist is like, what's acceptable, what's not. Like, look at something like Bill Clinton.
Sure.
Put in "Don't Ask, Don't Tell"
Yeah.
to allow gays in the military, which at the time was like this was landmark.
Revolutionary thing.
Yeah, allowing gays in. But now, if you tell a gay service member like you have to keep your sexuality quiet,
Right.
like what? Are you kidding me?
And
like,
it's
you have to
not
hide it.
that long ago either.
Right, it's
Yeah.
not. But so if you had someone right now, or if you were exposed to this information right now, you didn't know the year.
Right.
You hear Bill Clinton say, "We think gay people should be quiet. We're not going to ask them about their homosexuality." But you'd be like, "Get rid of this
You'd
guy."
be like, no way.
Yeah, but you have no idea this was like so pro-gay at the time.
Right.
So that's why you can't
Context
judge
is
people
so
based
key.
on before.
Yeah.
It was before, and they didn't catch him before. Like when OJ killed that lady.
Yeah.
At the time, people were like, "That's wrong."
Yes.
It wasn't like years later we're like reanalyzed.
No,
it. Yeah.
that was when we knew at the
Yeah.
time. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we totally blatantly miss something.
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting thing to kind of think about both those things.
Yeah.
And in the way that that's changed, same thing with comedy specials. Like we were talking off camera, it's like at a time you were just doing it on your own. Comedy Central was like, nope, we're not into it. But then you're like, I'm just going to make this anyway.
just do it yourself.
And then they came back like, we'd love to have you, Ari.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah,
So
they got it
how
made
has the
for-
whole
yeah.
special thing changed? Because it's done Netflix, Comedy Central. There's so many places to do it. What are the biggest changes?
Well, there's a lot more platforms now, so you can actually reach a lot more people now. Netflix, the accessibility, Amazon, HBO Go. It's like you can just watch a special whenever you want.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like you have to watch it at a certain time. And then it's like you reach so many people across the globe. I had a chick from Vietnam in my audience. And I was like, "What are you doing at the stand?" And she was like, "We came to see you. We saw your thing in Ho Chi Minh." And I was like, "What? I've
That's
done drugs
amazing.
there. That's crazy." Yeah. And it was like you just can't reach those people before, and now you really can. It's a golden age for comics.
Yeah,
it
totally
really
is.
is. And for all the people who were like try to revolt and be like, "This comic needs to go away," they have no idea. They're just advertising for you. It's like if you like dark comedy, this person's pissed off a whole group of people.
Sure.
So you'll love this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Hart's situation, he was the most talked about person in the country
Yeah,
at
people
that
like,
point.
we have to take him down off the Oscars. Okay, because
Yeah.
America doesn't want him to host. Like, okay, sure, fine. And then his movie opened at #1 that week.
Yeah.
So the reality is Americans don't hate him. Americans quite do like him. So you're like, he can't be here, but it's not supported by the people.
Well, it's really interesting because we think about the coastal bias in news and comedy, but there's so many people in the middle of the country that, and you've been all over the country, you've seen people are just going to come for a comedy show and don't care about the other
They don't
stuff.
give a shit.
Yeah.
They just don't give a shit.
Right.
And it's like, leave that behind. I mean, the idea that you have to talk about certain things. I was working at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
I was an employee there. And my roommate had just moved out, so I didn't have a TV. So I went into where I answered phones as my day job, and we watched on the small TV. And phones kept coming in. They're like, "Do you have a show tonight?" We're like, "No, it's canceled."
Wow.
And then you realize, like, oh, this is the way people get away from things. So eventually it's like, stop talking about that dark shit. Just have fun.
Right.
Just talk about, like, anything. I did a joke about the election, during the elections. It was like October.
Okay.
And
In 2016, you said?
2016.
Okay.
And it was like October, September, something like that. I was like, so you guys voting? And just, I didn't take a side yet.
Right.
It was just you guys voting. And like 60% of the audience was like, ugh. Whereas like, we don't hear about it anymore.
You just said one line and
Yeah.
people are already assuming.
Yeah, distract us
Yeah.
from all this. We're getting enough of this. You know, talk about some homeless guy or
Sure.
something that we, something interesting. But it's just like, yeah, so I don't know. I think it's just a great time for comedy.
Well, the other thing is that in a world that we're so distracted, you have somebody's attention for an hour, a full
Yeah.
hour and a half at times. So when you're doing the live stuff still, how do you make sure you reel people in and make sure they're not on their phones and not distracted elsewhere?
Well, the phones is like, that's just an addiction thing that's
Yeah.
plaguing our country.
It really is,
And,
yeah.
and everywhere, really. I was in East Timor, and they had billboards for like,
Wow.
don't text and drive. There's engineers working to get you addicted.
Yeah, they want you to spend
yeah.
as much time on the phone as
They have
possible.
training to do it. You
Right.
have no training to resist it. So
Yeah.
you're going to lose that fight.
Yeah, and we are really the first generation that is going through this. And same thing with parents right now that are going through this with their kids the first time. There's no blueprint.
Yeah,
you know?
I told my sister, I was like, it seems irresponsible for you to let those kids have a smartphone. And every parent says the same thing, like, emergency, I need to reach them.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, but two things. One, we didn't have phones when we
Yeah.
were kids. We were just out. Teach us how to, like, bike or
Exactly.
get a neighbor or
Yeah,
whatever.
playing outside,
yeah.
et cetera.
And two, you can have a flip phone for emergencies.
Right.
You
I had
don't-
a flip phone when I was in middle school.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't have a Facebook, Twitter,
Yeah.
Instagram. It's
But
like
I get
it's
the
all I need.
emergency thing. You want
Yeah.
to check it. So a flip phone will do that.
Absolutely.
And it won't like add this thing to your life, this distraction level that it's been proved. I mean, all the studies are there.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you subject your child to that?
I totally
Let
get
him
that.
have it at 20.
Yeah, wait a little longer.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they'll fall behind. It's like, correctly fall behind. Yeah, so with the phones, it's like hopefully clubs have a thing of like turn it off. I've thrown shit at people before.
Really?
Take a napkin from somebody's table and like, but I do it slowly. So it's like you're clearly not paying attention.
Right.
If I can go like this, like look, and then be like, and you haven't moved, and hit you like, what the? It's like you weren't even here.
Yeah.
Or I'll keep doing a bit. I'll see somebody on their phone. I'll keep doing a bit. I'll go all the way through it, 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'll stop. Like, all right, just to prove a point here. Excuse me, you on your cell phone, and they're like, oh, sorry. I'm like, no, it's okay, but I just want to prove a point. What was I talking about? And then sometimes it'll be like, have a detail that sort of seeped in, but that's it. Like if it was this conversation
Right.
like about specials, and you're like, you don't really have it.
Yeah, no, you basically weren't even here.
Yeah. So this is the most interesting thing about your week. You're
Yeah.
a live comedy show, and you're gone to tell your friends or to look at Instagram.
You've spent money to come here. You've taken time out of your day to come and listen to what you have to say, and
Yeah.
yet you're not fully present.
They have these pouches. Yonder is a company that has these pouches that you put your phone in, and you can feel it vibrate, but you can't open it up. You need
Oh,
a
wow.
thing, and it's a magnet thing, kind of like you're buying clothes. They
Yeah.
take the thing, they take it off. You know.
Just hand those out at every show.
Yeah, so they do, and people complain. Some people get it, and some people complain. It's like, well, I have a kid, you know. It's like,
Right.
all right, well, Buzz, you can go outside, and you don't have to take the call in the hallway anyway.
Right.
So
I'm not going to take it in the middle of the show.
yeah, so it's okay. Or some people's like, well, I was not going to use my phone anyway. It's like, well, then no issue then, right? If you weren't going to use it, then what's the
You should
problem?
be good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People try to sneak them in.
Well, that was the thing with Chappelle's shows, too, when he didn't want people to bring their phones in. And people were really pissed about that. But it's like, I just want you
He's
to
the one,
focus
yeah,
on
he
me.
donated those Yonder pouches
Yeah.
Chappelle did to Denver Comedy Works,
There
and
you
they've
go.
really used it for every show now. And their audience in Denver, since they've been there enough, they get like, this is just the way it is.
Right.
And the reality is, you've lost yourself in it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's way better. I've had people look up all the time going like, what's this supposed to mean? I was like, well, if you listened to the setup, you would know what it's supposed to mean.
Right.
But you were gone during the setup.
Yeah, you can't just check in. You got to be here the whole time, especially when you're building out a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said this long for a reason. You need to hear all
not
these
just for
words.
me, it's for you
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah. Imagine going to like chapter 3 of a
Right?
book and
Yeah,
starting there.
you're just totally missing the whole plot. You
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah, so it's tough, but
an
just
interesting
in
time.
life too.
Yeah.
I saw a guy almost get hit by a car just like walking.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just like, we got to figure out a way off this. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's just dangerous. You're
It really
gone.
is.
You are gone.
You got to separate.
I saw a study once that said even when you're not looking at your phone, when you're talking on your phone, it reduces, what's that kind of
Peripheral vision?
Peripheral vision
Yeah.
by something like 30%.
Wow.
Just like even in earbuds. So you're not looking at anything, it just
Absolutely.
pulls your focus into here.
Yeah.
So that means you're not seeing here anymore, a car coming.
No, it's scary. It definitely is.
Yeah, but whatever.
We'll see how it goes, right?
Yeah, I got off it by the way. I went and got one of these
Oh,
instead.
yeah? What do you got? Oh, wow.
Hotel
You went
too.
old school. So how long ago was this?
Almost 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're really an early adopter in the whole thing of,
Late maybe.
Unplugging.
Yeah, I just couldn't trust myself with it.
I feel you.
It's so awful. Sending texts.
What's
so,
the way?
It takes forever.
The texting's the worst part.
Yeah, my friend's like, you're on your phone more now. I'm like, not more, but definitely
It
to send a
takes
text,
longer.
it's not like 5 seconds. It's like
that,
a minute.
That phone's not showing how much screen time you have compared to your iPhone.
No, but there's also nothing to do.
Right? What are you going to play Snake? I mean-
Yeah.
So Ari, when you look at the comedy game now, who are some other comedians you're looking at and you're like, you know what, I like what this person's doing, or I like what he's doing or she's doing?
Well, there's a lot of, okay, so there's different levels of that. So like at the top levels, you got guys like Tom Segura
Yep.
and Bill Burr, who are like, just kind of like, just great. Nate
Burr's
Bargatze
always been
just
your
had a
guy,
special.
right?
Yeah, Burr I've always really liked.
Yeah.
There's certain guys that when you watch enough comedy, like you'll keep coming in the room for. Sebastian was always a guy.
Yeah.
That when you're like, it was late night at the store and you're high, before he was as big as he is, you know, and you're like looking for something that you're in between two conversations, and you see Sebastian's on, you're like, oh, let me go in the back and just watch, and he would just make you laugh so hard at the most normal stuff. So like, there's like day-to-day guys like Sebastian was, now he's massive, but
Right.
like, those are the guys I like, the guys working out at clubs. So like, Big Jay Okerson and Kurt Metzger and Nate Bargatze, who's becoming more of a name now. He just had a special come out, but like, it's just like, I don't know, there's dudes that are like just funny, Adrian Appalucci, Mike Vecchione.
but are putting in the time also.
Yeah, and you watch them and you're like, wow, interesting technique there,
Yeah.
or like, cool, that's the way you did a switch there, or something like that. You can just see technique.
Right.
The guys doing specials and big names are like, yeah, those guys, Burr always, Segura, Rogan, Kreischer.
Who else do you remember from the store back in the day?
Well, there was, okay, the store was cool because I would have like, one person there would do something better than almost anybody in the world, or among the best people in the world. That's what I used to like about golf. Like, you're not as good as Tiger Woods,
Right.
but there's a 14-foot putt that you'll hit once that no golfer in the world could do better than you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just hitting that putt. And they're all probably at 95, 98%.
Right.
But you got it as well as they could do. So some of these guys are as good as they've ever been. So like Bob Oshak, who now is a writer for like late night stuff, he used to do like well-written bits like perfectly with like examples. He would always use like specific examples, which I really liked. Don Barris is like this guy who was like late night, would really get like a dead crowd going. And he talked to like real conservative people and this really, like, he would go to like grandmothers. He'd be like, "You dirty slut."
Oh my
yeah, but
gosh.
he would do it in such a way that they'd be smiling,
Right.
that they wouldn't feel attacked at all. I'm like, wow, what a cool technique he has. And then guys like Joe Rogan would always be like, he would never take no for an answer from a crowd. If they're like, "We're a bad crowd," he was like, "I don't accept that." He wouldn't say it, but he would
just keep pushing.
the vibe until
Yeah.
it'd be like killing. I'm like, wow, he could turn this room around. Paul Mooney had this like presence that I've never seen anybody have. He would go on like at 12:30 at night, and people would be ready to leave, and then all of a sudden they would just, before he even opened his mouth, they'd be like, sit back down and like, who's this guy? Just has this
Interesting.
power. So like you could see these guys that have like just one technique,
One thing that they're
better
great
than
at.
anybody.
Yeah.
Freddie Soto, he's passed away, but he would like really like be natural and be like himself more than almost anybody. Joey Diaz was the same way. You have a conversation with Joey Diaz, then he goes on stage, and it's almost like he'll just like, let me finish this from up there. You know, there's no like separate thing.
Right.
Yeah, starting at the Comedy Store was great because then you'd also have high-level guys you could ask advice from, and they'd give you real advice.
Who gave you good advice?
I was going through my first rut, I remember, where I just was like, everything was going a little worse than it should. Like good rooms were going okay, okay rooms were going bad, and bad rooms were tanking horribly. Like it was just
gotcha.
like, I should be doing an A here, I'm doing a B or B minus. Like something's off.
Yeah.
So I asked one guy, he was like, "Well, maybe comedy's not your thing," which I was like so rude, but at the time I realized maybe he's compassionate. He was like, "You're probably not gonna last, dude,
Sure.
so get out." Freddie Soto, that guy who died, yeah, I got a bunch of advice from people. He was like, you can't just do this stuff like 10 or 15 times. You have to do it like 1,000 times. So you know this bit so well, you can go out of it and then come back in. There's no like order, you just know it. The way you would be telling a story about college to your friend now. Like,
Right.
you know how it went, so you can
you
come
know
out
like
of
back
it
of your
and go
hand.
back in.
Yeah.
Rogan and Dice both gave me really good advice. Rogan's advice was, you've grown as a comic from when you started writing that joke, especially in the first couple of years, you grow so fast, so quickly. Like there's not that much growth technique-wise between year 18 and year 20, but year 1 to year 3 is like you're a
was
monumentally
big.
different
Yeah.
comic. So, but you're still stuck doing them because you wrote them a year ago and you're doing them when you're a year better. So he goes, you just got to drop them and write new bits. And then Dice gave me the best. He was like, it's kind of like when a analyst, like a basketball analyst, it's a 25-point blowout with 3 minutes left. And they're bored. They've seen 150 games that year.
Right.
They have to act excited. He goes, that's your job. Remember that place you were in when you wrote this and get yourself back in that mindset. So if it's about a breakup and you don't care anymore, you got to find the rage again. Kinnison would always find the rage.
That's really great advice right there.
Yeah, yeah. So it was so cool to have access to these amazing guys.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable at that point in your life.
Yeah.
And that point in your career too.
And it wasn't just random, like, got any tips? It
Right.
was like, this specific thing I'm going through.
No, it was a thoughtful question
Yeah,
from you
so that
and
I
a
could get
thoughtful
it.
answer.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you just say, hey, how do I do this? You're not going to get the response you're looking for.
Yeah, imagine translate to New York. Like, how's New York? Like, I don't know. What do you mean, the food, the
Yeah.
weather, like whatever. But then if you're like, is there anything I should know about apartment shopping in New York? Like, yeah, okay.
me hook you
Brokers
up.
are all crooked.
Yeah.
Be careful of that. You know, look how thin the walls are. Like specific stuff.
Right.
You know, and this was that all the time. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when people check out your comedy special or your podcast, what do you
Yeah.
want people to think about you and your comedy?
Just funny. Just about having fun and laughing. So that's what you're gonna do. At any other level I put it out on, you know, where it's like about a topic or
Sure.
something specific, all that, if it's not funny, then it's a failure. So it'll always be funny.
There you go.
Yeah, that's like the job of the comic, wall-to-wall laughs.
Good deal. All right, why don't you tell everybody where they can check your stuff out?
I have a podcast, wherever you find podcasts. If you don't know what a podcast is, then just don't pay attention to this because it's just, you'll find out in 5 or 6 years. But it's called Ari Shafir's Skeptic Tank, and I have a special on Netflix, a double special called Children and Adulthood. No, it's called Double Negative, but the 2 parts are Children and Adulthood. Watch. Well, if you hate children, then children is the part for you. And if you think adulthood is dangerous and tough, then that's the part for you. So enjoy those, and yeah, let me know what you think.
And you can watch it on your phone unless you're this guy who's got the flip phone.
Yeah, you can watch it on your phone. Yeah, that's what I love doing to my friends too. When they're like, can you look up something? And I just like,
yeah, sure, I'd love to.
I open my phone, whatever. Where did my phone go? Did I just lose it? Oh, it's here. And I go like, Cersei, remind me to look up Game of Thrones premiere. That is unreplaceable. We need a regular iPhone that has that.
I missed that. I missed the flip.
Maybe an add-on or something.
Yeah, totally. Well, Ari, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, DJ.
Thanks so much. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.